Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to Good for the Soul, episode number 3. Today I sat down with Steven Galvez, and I guess not technically today because I recorded it a couple weeks back, but yeah, sat down with my homie Steven Galvez. He's the owner of Logic Jiu Jitsu in Spanaway, Washington. Steven's a homie. We've trained together a bunch of times over the years. Man, I forget if he was I think he was a white belt, maybe a blue belt when him and I met. We were same level as I was a white belt, or excuse me, I may have been a blue belt, he was a white belt, but he came up to Ivan's with the Down South boys, some of our homies who train at affiliations down in Tacoma. They came up to Seattle on one of our no-gi nights. Him and I met there. That was the first time I trained. And then he stuck with jiu-jitsu, so we've seen each other around ever since. He opened up his own school down in Spanaway. And this place, Logic, guys, I'm telling you, it's a beautiful gym. Right, it's incredible. You walk in, there's 2 mat sections, one really large area, one smaller section, with white mats, gray walls. It's beautiful. It's a clean gym. He's done a very well job, or excuse me, he's done a really amazing job cultivating a classic clean jiu-jitsu environment. So I love sitting down with him. That was awesome. We got to talk jiu-jitsu, have a good time. Steven himself, he spent 20 years in the Army as well, and from my memory, he did it mostly in the Ranger Regiment. So awesome guy. He travels, he competes a lot, right? So he travels for jiu-jitsu, which is exciting to see because he's living kind of that jiu-jitsu lifestyle. Guys, being at Logic is such a cool environment. One, we talked about his open mat, and you'll hear about it, but Sunday, open mat, super welcoming. Go and check it out, right? You may find it fits for you. Let's see what else I got for you. Oh yeah, guys, before we get into it, let me talk about Jocko Fuel, right? I am affiliated with them. They're awesome. I've been using their products for years, and again, they like the idea of the project, so they gave me the affiliation. So this month, for the rest of February, you're gonna get a buy one get one 50% off on any of the Jocko Fuel products. So go to jockofuel.com. I mean, that's gonna be the supplements, the protein shakes, the Discipline Goes, all that kind of stuff. And you're gonna get another 10% off that order if you use Good for the Soul at checkout. So, you know, go support yourself, get some awesome products. I love this stuff. Again, I've been using it for years. This one here, the chocolate protein powder, delicious. I'm a huge fan. they all taste amazing, and they're actually healthy for you. Strawberry is going to be my favorite, right? I think you guys have seen that one. So yeah, go check it out. Supports me a little bit. Support yourself by getting some awesome product. Guys, without further ado, here's a conversation, interview, however you want to phrase it, with Steven Galvez, owner of Logic Jiu Jitsu. For sure. No, we're just going, man. I think, yeah, we're chilling. We'll get right into it because why not, dude? We had a freaking good day. Your open mat here is fucking amazing, man.
Yeah, I took Keenan Cornelius was like, we're gonna do an open mat, all affiliations, no charge, you can wear whatever the fuck you want, and I was like, that should work. And so we did it at the old gym, was just next door, and we probably had like 30, but so like 700 square feet of mat space. So then we moved over here and we did the same thing, and now I think every Sunday we average like 50 people in there. I think it's like probably the biggest open mat there is in the state. I mean, I think
you've been to a bunch of them.
Yeah, well, there's the one in Olympia. I haven't been to BJJ Olympia, but they get like 50 people.
No way.
That's good.
Nice.
I love that, man.
Hell yeah.
Man, so right off the bat, where does your love for jiu-jitsu come from?
I think when I started watching the UFC in like 2006, and I knew I didn't want to be a fighter, but I saw like people doing jiu-jitsu, so I actually searched for a gym with the base I was at. I did it for a few months. Then I had a baby, so it's like jiu-jitsu wasn't time. It wasn't time to be in my life. And then my son has been training since he was 7, so I spent like a year just watching him.
Okay.
And then finally, my life was kind of in shambles, and then I started doing jiu-jitsu and never left. Like, this is all I've done for like the last 6 years.
Well, I remember, I forget who I was telling. I was talking to someone like, yeah, I mean, me and Steven, I don't know if we were white belts at the same time, or I had maybe just got my blue belt because you would come up to Seattle with Caleb and kind of like right as you start training. I was like, okay, well, you know, we'll see if this guy sticks around. And you've been around and opened your own gym and everything. It's like, okay, cool, super legit. So was it a defining moment for you where you're like, I mean, how did you get your son into it if he started training before yourself?
Well, I was in the Army, right? So I just had 0 time.
Gotcha.
But Troy, I put him in like every single sport there was, and he hated all of them. And then when I finally put him in jiu-jitsu, he loved it. I don't know if he loves it now. He might do it because I make him. But, so he started liking it, and then at the time, man, I had like lost my job. I got divorced. I got arrested all in like 100 days. So my life was like just going down. And then the professor at the time, or the coach, he was like, "Why don't you come train?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't have time." Before I even finished that sentence, I was like, "I got all the time now." And so I just got on the mats. It's been healthy for me. Like, I don't drink as much. I mean, jiu-jitsu can be toxic too, though. Like, if you just let it overwhelm your life and then you don't do anything.
Right? In what way? What do you mean?
Maybe toxic's not the word. I like to use the word toxic, but like all I do is jiu-jitsu, right? Like, that's all I do. I will put everything else second. And so like I have to like really focus on sometimes. If my girlfriend says like, "Hey, we're having dinner Thursday night," that means I'm not doing jiu-jitsu. That's fine. Yeah. That's totally fine, right? But like, if someone doesn't tell me, if someone doesn't invite me, if someone's like, if you don't tell me it's your birthday and we're hanging out, like, I'm doing jiu-jitsu that night.
Yeah.
And if you don't tell me within 24 hours, I'm like, can't make it. I'm already doing jiu-jitsu.
I like that.
You know what I mean?
Well, yeah.
So it's like you have to find a balance, just like in everything else. So I use the word toxic because like if you let it, you lose a lot of people.
Well, it can, because it's seemingly from my point of view, right? Because I've dealt with that before. Like I don't gamble, but like that addiction we have, right? Applied to jiu-jitsu or other activities like this, it's like, oh, that's why we stay here. That's why we love it and continue to do it.
And I was the same way in the Army, right? In the Army, I was like, I want to be the best, and so everything came second. Family came second. Friends came second. That's all I did. Then I rode a motorcycle for like 10 years.
That was
everybody
everything.
else came second to that. So now my third time's a try. I'm trying to learn how to balance, how to know when to spar, when to drill, when to not come, when to make sure my family's taken care of. So that's why I say it could be toxic, is you can go down the rabbit hole of like, there's just nonstop learning.
Yeah.
Right? Like every day there's something to
Well,
learn.
so what was that balance of addiction towards jiu-jitsu like for you as, okay, just someone doing jiu-jitsu, and now 3 years now owning your own gym?
Yeah.
Has the perspective changed at all? Is the feeling still the same? Like, how do you apply that differently? Okay, I'm owning this gym and I can't necessarily dive into it the same way all the time if I need to be here 6 or 7 days a week.
Yeah. I mean, it changed, right? It changed. Like at first I just wanted to, when I found out that you can win world championships, I was like, man, I got to do it, right? And so, which I haven't done, but
yeah, you're getting there. I saw some of these medals on the wall. You're getting there.
The world eludes me. But, you know, before I was kind of just training for myself, and now teaching kids or helping teaching kids, and sometimes I get to teach the adults. You know, I run the morning class, but it's been beneficial. So now, like, I love being a coach. I love being a coach better than I like competing. Cool. Right? Like when I go and compete, I just go in there getting in a fight without throwing punches. You know? But I like to coach. I like seeing white belts' faces when something blows their mind, like a scissor sweep, you know. And I like to see some of the color belts, maybe like if they don't know something and I just get to show them something, I feel good about it. So for me, coaching is better than competing. And when I started jiu-jitsu, it was just competing, like competing with myself, competing with peers, you know, just trying to win.
Yeah, that's such a different lifestyle, because it's hard to focus on being a good or great coach and solely focusing on yourself to be a great competitor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's
I think it just took a mix of stuff. Like if you come in here and train with your students and you know you're actually applying the moves that you're teaching, like actually working on that, you get better. You get better like that. You know, if I just come in here and I sub the same white belt with the same triangle over and over and over, I'm not getting any better. You know what I mean? But if I go in there and I'm like, oh, I taught you more today, let me show each one of these person that it does work. Like it kind of like fixes your own game. Yeah. Maybe even your own lies. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you teach something, you're like, I better go study that again.
Yep. Or those little nuances like, okay, that didn't really work because they let me in. It's a white belt. I gotta figure that one out.
That's like when I try to teach to a 4-year-old, right? Like if you can teach an armbar to a 4-year-old, you know the move. That's what I tell the kids. I tell the kids this. I'm like, if you can tell me the name of the move, you can do the move, and then you can teach the move, that's when you know it. If you can't do those 3 things, you don't actually know the move yet.
Yeah, that's totally fair. That makes sense. Hang on with it. Hey, Johnny, can you turn that timer off? Do you know? Thanks, brother. That was every 4 minutes. Beep, beep. So drawing people into jiu-jitsu, right? Like that's one of my goals throughout this journey and process, getting people excited about jiu-jitsu, because you probably know this, we've been training long enough to know, you can only talk to people or your friends who don't train jiu-jitsu, and they're not going to train jiu-jitsu so much, and then you gotta lay off of it, right? So, but as a coach, as a business owner, how do you pull people into jiu-jitsu, sharing your excitement about it?
Honestly, sometimes I talk about anxiety and I talk about like claustrophobia and things like that when I see people that need that emotional help. Like, I don't tell you about like how cool rolling is or how it's a great workout or how you can lose weight. Most of the time it's like I see some person that has anxiety and I'm like, dude, come to jiu-jitsu. And they're like, how's that gonna help? I'm like, it'll work out, trust me. I'm like, I don't know how to explain it to you. I'm not a doctor. I'm not gonna be like, oh, this, and this, but I think jiu-jitsu removes anxiety, right? Like when someone's anxious, someone's got claustrophobia, and I'm like, I'm gonna mount you. All right, like it's your job to get out. And the more you get comfortable, the better, right? So I think when I talk to people about jiu-jitsu, I'm only talking to them if I feel like they need something emotionally.
Wow, interesting.
Right? Like I don't go, hey man, you can lose some weight through jiu-jitsu. Or hey, like you want to learn to fight. Like that's not what I do. Right?
Well, it's interesting because almost to your point, those examples you had, weight loss or like I want to learn to fight. Well, those are both internal emotions. Like if someone is overweight, they're probably dealing with something else, right? Because I totally feel you on that. You know, I've dealt with anxiety and depression throughout my whole life in different stages, and jiu-jitsu has been a catalyst to get me through that. And maybe I'll never end those feelings, but it helps me deal with them every day because training, you know.
After a few days, like my girlfriend's like, hey, go to the gym.
Yes. Like, if you have not trained for too long, like, okay, grab the bag and go. I love that. So for man or woman, what is that first, because everyone's story may be a little different, right? How could you potentially explain to someone like, hey, making that leap from never having trained before, right, to walking through those doors for the first time? Like, how do they maybe adjust their schedule or commit to it? I mean, what would that process as a coach be like? Hey, I'm thinking about trying, but I don't know. Like, how do you get someone through the door? Not as a business wise, but more so even for themselves, you know?
Yeah, I mean, the easy answer, the easy part's the business part, believe it or not. That's the easy part. But to actually get someone to commit to it, it's like everybody has the same question. Do you have a fundamentals class? Do you have a beginners class? Because I don't want to look stupid. That's the term I've heard. I've had a business owner. He was a rich guy. He came in. He's like, I want to do private lessons. I was like, why don't you try a couple classes first? He's like, nope, I want to pay private lessons. This is what I'm doing. I was like, well, why? He's like, I own a multi-million-dollar company. I don't like looking stupid. And I'm like, dude, you got to get over that. I'm like, you're going to get beat up in here a lot, you know? He's like, that's okay, but let's just start meeting you. So when people come in the door, to get them to stay, you know, and it's difficult with women, to be honest, right? When they come in, if there's no women in that class, they're not staying. Right. You know, and so this gym does a good job, especially the women that we have or some of the members that we have. They're always greeting people at the door. Cool. It doesn't even have to do with me. Like, people will greet people at the door, try to make you feel comfortable, try to get you to stay, try to look around, and just tell you that it's going to be okay. Right? Because nobody likes, you know, sometimes we have 50 people on a night, on a Monday night. You walk in Monday night, and then I see people come in, can I get a card? And then they leave. Yeah. The business part of it is easy because I offer adults 3 free days, and then I offer kids 2 free weeks. Cool. Because that like gets the kids comfortable, gets the adults comfortable, and then like you can't just expect to come in here and be like, okay, I'm gonna join today. Yeah. Here's $150, $200 for the next year. Right. Like, not only are you uncomfortable coming in here, and then I'm like, give me your debit card.
Of course.
Right? So, just trying to be friendly at the door. People in the gym are friendly, and then overall, sometimes I like to people. I'm like, just sit here and watch for a second, and then ask me any questions you might have, and I'll sit there with them and just talk for the whole hour.
I like that.
I'll be like, hey, what did you have? And sometimes they're like,
what are some of those questions? You know, you touched on one of them. You know, a big one, like, hey, I don't want to look stupid, but like
the first one's always like, do I have to roll?
Oh, okay.
Like on your average, the average person that maybe like didn't do any sports or something like that, it's always like, do I have to roll? I'm like, no, you absolutely don't. I'm like, you can train, drill. I was like, but eventually the body's going to want to feel that, feel the intensity, or see if it works. I'm teaching you something. Does it really work? Like, you have to find out. Yeah. You know, and so I tell people, I'm like, it's almost important for you to find out if it works, because when you find out that you actually can't get out of it, it's kind of scary.
Yeah.
You know, my girlfriend, you know, she works with foster kids. So she came into her class and one of the girls mounted her and she was freaking out. It's like, imagine if that happened. Imagine that happened on the street.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I'm like, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
And when people were like, oh, jiu-jitsu for self-defense, I'm like, I'd pull a gun first.
Yeah.
I'm using a gun first. Like, I don't
Sure.
care what it is. I don't know what that guy knows or he or she knows. So it's important to have a secondary, and this is the secondary.
Yeah,
right? So,
absolutely. Well, you touched on something that's so true. So my mom saw my first interview, and it got her excited about jiu-jitsu. But I've been doing it, me and my brother, I've been doing it for about 10 years. My brother for about 5 or 6. He just got his purple belt. And she was saying to me, like, wow, like, this is getting me excited to train jiu-jitsu. But, like, I'm 56, like, well, it hurt my hand. She's a sign language interpreter. Like, do I have to roll? I was like, no, Mom. If you want to start jiu-jitsu, because she always sees whether it's just a competition or us talking about how hard and fun it was because we're in a padded room with our friends beating each other up, right? But that's not going to draw, the attitude's not going to draw new people and potentially to jiu-jitsu, you know? And so I had to explain to her, like, Mom, if you want to start jiu-jitsu, I'll get you private lessons. I know plenty of female instructors, or there's a female class, like we can get you through the door, you know? And that's one thing I want to make sure I'm being all inclusive for, because I think women need jiu-jitsu more than men, right? Maybe not more, but equally as important. You know what I mean? Because there's an aspect of life where, hey, I have a sister and mother I love dearly, that they deal with things that I'll never even understand.
I totally agree.
You know,
I try to tell people, like, my 3 priorities when it comes to jiu-jitsu: it's kids, women, and then men.
Cool.
And say however you like, but like I think men should naturally, you know, testosterone and naturally want to be the provider and come in here and roll hard. Well, the whole world isn't like that, right? So like you have kids and you have women. So for me, our kids team is like number 1, and then trying to grow a women's team. So like we have, I think, over 25 women enrolled here.
Wow.
We do a women's class. Obviously you can't see it here, but we have 2 mats. But every Thursday, whoever outnumbers who gets the big mat. And I think only one time in the last 8 weeks have they not gotten the big mat.
No way.
So the first class, there was 27 women in here. We have a girl named Priya, and she teaches the class. Great class.
That's amazing.
Yeah, 27 women first day.
Maybe I'll tell my mom to come down here for a first time.
And even then, like, the intensity's tough in here too in this room.
Yeah.
So like when women come in here, they're like, it's the same thing. They're like, do I have to roll? I'm like, you don't have to roll.
Right.
I was like, but at least it's with other women. You'll feel friendlier.
Right.
And then we'll go from there.
Yeah, because that, you know, from what I've heard from talking to them, right, that, especially that feeling, and even guys too, like, unless you played football or had brothers when you wrestled all the time, being this close to someone and touching and grappling all the time, it's very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So for the first time, being like, hey, like, do I have to touch this person? You know, like, what's this like, right? So, oh man.
That's probably the biggest question: is do I have to roll?
Okay.
No.
Cool. Yeah, and you can say no.
Yeah,
That's all right.
You can say no.
Yeah. Just, so it's like walking into a 24-hour fitness. Like, you don't have to get on any machine. You don't have to put a bunch of weight on it, right? You can test and try it, you know, in the free weights. You do what's comfortable. Same thing here. But I will say, and you have a very welcoming gym here, which is awesome, but it can be hard for people to say no, right? Because it's personable. It's not just free weights. You're like, oh, I know it's too heavy. I'm not going to do it. If someone comes and says, hey, do you want to train with me?
And not only that, but like everyone's wearing a gi, right? Everyone's wearing a gi. Everyone knows how to tie the belt for the most part. And so you're already behind, right? And so when people walk in here and there's 40 people lined up and they don't know where to go, they don't know where to stand, we're setting you up for complete failure when you walk in here. So like we try to do a good job of welcoming everybody. I already have loaner gis ready for like all shapes and sizes, so that you look the part. You know, the only thing holding you back is not being able to tie the belt. Right. You know, and so it's super important to do things like that when it comes to business. Is like you have to make people feel welcome. You have to make people feel like they want to be there before you're like put your debit card on file. Right.
So let's say, hey, someone made, whether it was an interaction with you, one of your students, or they've just heard about jiu-jitsu, they come through the door, right? They do sign up, right? They're kind of past that, okay, like I'm gonna try jiu-jitsu stage, so they're trying it. What's that first advice for, you know, a white belt of 3 to 6 months? Like how do you keep them encouraged to stay and want to continue to train?
Well, I think that's what the best thing about jiu-jitsu is, that like every day there's something to learn. And so if you are a person who likes to learn or is curious, and I think you are that person when you walk into jiu-jitsu, right? So I almost feel like I don't have to do that for the most part, because every day there's like, someone show me this. like, I can't really show you this until I show you this. So let me show you this instead.
Okay.
And then I'll show you that piece. And then like, well, show me this. I'm like, there's so many hours. You know what I mean? It's like every day.
You go down the rabbit hole.
You go down the rabbit hole. The rabbit hole is unlimited in jiu-jitsu. Right?
And sometimes you have to tell them, hey, go home and YouTube. Here's 10 links, and you'll spend the whole night going down the rabbit hole.
Right. And so I think it's harder to keep people who've been doing jiu-jitsu for a while. You talk about, people like who quit at blue belt or purple belt or brown belt. Like, if you don't keep the gym fresh, and when you don't keep learning, you don't keep pushing out new information, because it's easy to teach a scissor sweep over and over and over because you have nonstop students that are coming in. Right. But like the color belts need advanced stuff. And not every color belt wants to help white belts.
It's true.
So like, you have to give the whole room something. And so I don't find it hard to keep students. Like, students stay because they want to learn. The vibe is good, and the people are good. Yeah. And then I think it's harder to keep the upper belts because they get bored. They start to come less. They feel like they already know everything. Right. You know what I mean? Which it's your choice on how many times you come to jiu-jitsu. The other question is how many times should I come? Do I have to roll, and how many times a week should I come? Okay. Because everybody they want a definitive moment of like, okay, it's going to take me 2 weeks and then I'm really good at jiu-jitsu. Right? So then everyone's like, how many times a week do I have to come? So I say the average person comes 2 times a week. Right. Anything after that, 3 is awesome. 4 is fantastic. 5, pick up another fancy word. Right. 2 times a week is unbelievable, right? I'm stupid. Find a thesaurus, right? Yeah. Anything more than 2 times is amazing. But 2 times a week is the average, I would say.
So that's a great transition into, hey, the blue belt, purple belt, brown belt. Like, what advice do you give those people where maybe you have been training for a while? You start hitting those plateaus that you and I probably know. Where you're like, damn, it's been 6 months. I don't feel like I'm progressing, or maybe I'm just cruising. Like, how do you coach those people? And what has your experience been like coaching people as your journey in jiu-jitsu has been?
Then I go like, maybe I'm going to be a hypocrite on this and go the opposite way, and then I go take time off.
Okay.
Like, when I'm in here, there'll still be times when I feel like I can't sub white belts. I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I can't do anything. And obviously the white belt's clearly getting better. If I can't sub him, or it's making me work harder, or the blue belts or the purple belts. There'll be times I'm like, I can't do anything, and I get really bummed. I'm like, well, I'm getting worse. I'll take a week off. I'll come back, and it's like the Matrix, right? Like, I can read now. I can see. I'm like, wow, like, I just needed time off. I blew my knee out, I think, last year, and I was out for 10 weeks. And for 10 weeks, I just sat here and just like coached from the sidelines for the kids and watched people do stuff. And I came back slowly, and then started sparring with people, and I was like twice as good as I was before.
He brutalized me the first roll.
I was twice as good. I was like, I just had increased because I took the time to like watch people, to understand the mistakes that I was making, and to really miss jiu-jitsu. Yeah. When you don't miss something and you just come here and you're just going through the motions, I see it all the time. Yeah. I see people just going through the motions. Yep. Which is fine. Like, it's your jiu-jitsu, it's your journey. Some people want to be a world champion. Some people just want to lose weight. So like, when I see people are like stagnant or in that place, I'm just kind of like, take some time off, or take a couple days off. Yeah. Or, hey, come help teach the kids. Right? That's not for my benefit. People are like, oh, you just want people to help teach the kids. I don't need any help with that. Like, if you come and help teach kids, or just me walk around and help the white belts, your brain changes where it's at. Yes. Your brain will change everything about jiu-jitsu. It's focused on them instead of yourself, and then maybe you're not as bored. Right, and that can help pull you out of that funk, that plateau of boredom, or whatever is going on. Especially when people have injuries, I'm like, don't stay home. You're going to get worse. Yep. Like, you'll start drinking. You'll start eating all the good food every day, right? And so I'm like, just sit there. It's tough. Sit there and watch. Yeah. Or maybe go and coach a white belt if you're not. For sure. No, that's very relatable, because last year, damn, I was hurt 9 months last year. And 10 years of training jiu-jitsu, it's a knee at one point, it's a shoulder, but last year it was a knee, and then I tore my chest, my pec muscle at the same time. And so those months of just watching jiu-jitsu, because what I tell people very similarly as well, you typically never just watch jiu-jitsu. Unless you're, on YouTube or watching rolls, but the average everyday user, right, they're not at home watching Flow grappling all night. You know what I mean? And so, hey, to take time, and also it can keep you on schedule. So that's if you are injured. Hey, if you come to your jiu-jitsu slots during the week, still twice a week, and you sit there and watch, it's going to be a great benefit to you, you know? For sure.
So what was one of the last injuries you had that you dealt with? You said last year, because you're an active competitor, right? So does that kind of mess with your cycle of competition?
Well, maybe it wasn't even last year. When it's 2020, I guess when it was COVID, like when we first got back, and I just went like I hadn't taken any time off, and I was in the corner and I blew my knee out. I like tore my LCL, I tore my hamstring, I fractured my knee, just went like 5 good pops.
Dang. Wow.
Took the 10 weeks and then came back. I ended up coming back, healed up pretty good, fought on a fight to win. So it was good to be able to come back, boys. It was good to be able to come back, but I see a lot of injuries, and to be honest, maybe I'm just being a meathead, but there's some injuries that you have to work, just keep going.
Yeah.
Right, like when your toes are smashed.
A little jammed finger.
You gotta keep going. But some people are like, oh, I'm gonna rest, and then like obviously torn ligaments and stuff like that. You have to, right? Or then you end up like, I can't lock my elbow out anymore because I got arm barred and I just kept training and it clearly ripped. So there are some injuries that I feel like you got to keep going through, and then there's other ones that if you don't stop, you're going to be limited forever. So when it comes to injuries, I think you got to listen to your body. That's a cliche thing, but in jiu-jitsu, when something's wrong.
Right. There's a difference between hurt and injury.
Yeah.
Big difference.
Yeah.
A little pinky stub toe, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Just like you're describing. If your elbow's popped and you can't bend it, like maybe take some time off. And we'll go get it looked at.
Maybe take a little bit more than an ibuprofen.
Yeah. So what things as a coach have you learned that maybe were surprising to you coaching jiu-jitsu specifically versus your background and pedigree in the military?
One more time.
So was there anything that stuck out that you learned differently coaching jiu-jitsu versus being in the military?
I see what you're saying. And look, in the Army, luckily I got the good end of it the last couple of years, but in the Army, if I told you to do something, you just fucking did it. Right. It was like, especially I was in the Ranger.
Rock, paper, rank, right?
I was in the Ranger for over 10 years, so it was like what I said happened. You did it. There was no. I could be wrong, and you were still gonna do it. But you can't do that here, right? Like they're still paying customers. They're still students. They can still leave. They don't have to have any allegiance to you if they don't want to. Right. So. The one thing I took from the military for at least teaching is that if you give clear and direct guidance, it will always work. But it's got to be clear and direct, right? Put your hand here, do this, just do it. I promise it's going to work. And then after they do it a couple times, then we can talk about why it works, and we can talk about why it's not going to work because this guy's going to block or he's going to do something. Right. That's just called drilling. And so. Then you could drill wrong, right? Like you could drill wrong for a long time and then be like, man, fuck, I've been doing that wrong. But I find that if you, in the Army, if you drill mag changes and you drill mag changes until your hand's bleeding, eventually you're gonna be good at changing mags, which is super important when it comes to shooting. And so it's the same thing with jiu-jitsu, right? If you drill, it eventually will play out correctly and you can fix a little bit of the mistakes as long as they're not crazy. And so when you're teaching jiu-jitsu to kids or adults, it's the same way. If you give clear and precise guidance, it'll work out.
Cool.
But when you're just like, well, this is the way I've always done it, that's my number one pet peeve when I hear people teaching. This is just this is the way I learned it. Well, that doesn't mean it's right.
Right.
Tell me why.
Yes.
Tell me what. Tell me, break down the mechanic of why that works.
Cool.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. No. Totally. And that's I'm happy you pointed that out because in all aspects of life and business, I guess outside of the military, hey, it's relationship based. You can't just tell someone something and expect them to do it just because you said so.
Yeah.
We're all free individuals, right? And so that's a great point, and explaining the why, that's gonna be a huge thing. Because I remember, throughout my process and journey of jiu-jitsu, when I see someone teach something or I don't understand and they can't tell me why, but it's just because we're doing it. That's a very frustrating feeling.
Yeah.
And almost to one of your points, hey, for color belts, as you're moving up the rank structure, hey, understanding the why and the particular movements of jiu-jitsu, it's gonna keep you here on the mats. Because if you're getting just do it, that's the worst thing. So to some fun stuff. What were some good and bad moments for you on the mat today? Right, you're still active. You're rolling. You're coaching and training with all your students still. So what was the training session like for you today?
I'll say I came in pretty hungover today. I had more beers than I wanted yesterday, and it took me a lot to get motivated to even get on the mat, right? I was like, I'm just going to watch today. But then I remember we were doing this thing, so I was like, I cannot not even look like I trained. But I've said this before. Sometimes I'll come in here hungover, and I'll have some of my best training sessions. I don't know what it is. Maybe just because I'm trying to get it out of me, but today was actually pretty good. I felt good. Cardio felt good. There was a lot of tough dudes in here. There's a lot of big people in here.
A lot
today.
of big people. A lot of plus 200 pounders. It was a great room. Big room.
So that was good. But the bad part was I had to like force myself to get out there. Right? Sometimes it's like that, right? It's just like anything. Like if you force yourself to get up at 5:25 and work out, like I get up to teach morning class. Yeah. The day works out better. Yep. Right. If you stay in bed till 8:30.
I see those Instagram posts of you posting 5 a.m. workouts and training sessions.
Some days is brutal. Some days is brutal. And I'll slowly push it to like 5:30. But I'm the kind of guy I get up and I'm out the door, right? Like I got all my stuff lined up and I'm ready to go. So today I'd say the bad part was I had to force myself to get out there, but the good part was I had some good rounds.
Awesome. And you're here and you did it. So it's all good.
Now it's good, right? Now it's good.
Yep. So on a average training day, because maybe today you were just focused on getting over that hangover, which I've had many times like that myself. Do you, when you roll on average, do you have maybe a target focus of what you're trying to work on during that roll, or maybe with a particular person or that day, or are you rolling just for the flow of it and kind of see what comes to you? You know, because you're competing actively and you're also coaching, so you're trying to learn new things. Like, what is your process for rolling?
I think that if you're, I teach, I kind of almost like self-defense it, right? If you're a lot bigger than me, I am not allowing you to get to any position. I don't care if you're a white belt. If you're a white belt and you're 300 pounds, you're not getting to side control. Yeah. Right? Like it's gonna be damn near impossible to get. Eventually I'll get out because I think I know enough. Yeah. So it'll be tough, right? But I think I honestly treat anybody, if you come in here and you're a brown belt, like I'm gonna treat it as one of us is trying to win, right? Because for the most part, that's what it is. Jiu-Jitsu is intense, you know? But you can feel, I think what makes a good Jiu-Jitsu practitioner is you can feel right in the first 30 seconds if it's gonna be a war, if this person's way better than me, if this person's not as good as me. I can feel that in the first 30 seconds, right? Or like, I know you. I know when you're gonna spar, like I'm like, me and you, I'm on my, like, let's fucking go, right? I'm like prepared, like, okay, this is gonna suck balls.
When we're wearing the pajamas, like, I'm like, hey, today is a war with Steve, I gotta stay away.
I know it's gonna be, it's time to go, right? And so, I try to tell the white belts this too, and I try to tell anybody, I'm like, get to your position first, and then work from there. Okay. Right? So like, if you're a white belt, I'm gonna get to where I'm most comfortable, and then maybe you can pass, and we can sweep. But like, I try not to. I don't even like white belts past my guard because I don't ever want that in my brain. Right. I don't ever want to train like that. Yeah. You know what I mean? But so yeah, I'd say I pretty much spar with everyone the same way. I'm like very much me, and then in the first 30 seconds, I feel okay. I should probably tone it down. I got to pick it up. There's a white belt in here, Division I wrestler. Sometimes I'll go with him. He takes my back, chokes me. You know, and I'm just like, cool. Awesome. I've been training 6 years. You've training 5 minutes. Yep. But he has that in him, you know, and so I have to like take it serious. And so if you don't take it serious, sometimes there's a white belt in here and he just didn't bring his gi that day and his belt. Yep. You know, Kyle Mitchell. You know Kyle Mitchell. Yep. He came in here one time, forgot his black belt, and he was just wearing a white belt, and he was going with some brown belt. And he like, obviously, all your arm bars the guy in like the first 30 seconds. The guy literally goes, "What the fuck?" And Kyle goes, "Sorry, I forgot my belt at home." Right? And so like, I've seen this with women. This lady come in, she was a white belt, and she told all the girls, she's like, "Oh, I've only had like 6 classes." She smashed every single woman in here. And like some of the girls were like, "Steve, like I'm really feeling down about myself. Like this white belt, you know, I'm a purple belt." And I'm like, I watched you roll. I watched you go, "Hey, how's your day? Nice to meet you." And then you let her get on top of you. She battered you. I'm like, "Do it again tomorrow." Then they went wheel and they found out the girl didn't know anything. But she was a tough woman. You know, she was a single mom of 3 kids. Right. Tough, yeah. She knew it was time to go, you know? And so you just don't ever know who you're going with. And so I think in that first 30 seconds, you can feel the grips. Someone grabs you the grips. Someone you're like, "Oh, this guy knows what he's doing." Yeah. And then that's where the intensity goes. That's a great point. Even for me talking to you right now, I'm thinking, wow, I do that sometimes where I'll get too lax, right? Where I'm like, "Oh, cool." Then I pass my guard, I realize,
dang, now I have to work from a bad position.
Yeah.
And it's like sometimes with someone I'm fairly competitive with,
Yeah.
right? Versus, hey, if it's a white belt, okay, I'll let them work and kind of
Yeah.
play or whatever. But even then, if they're my size or bigger, I may not get out, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, they're strong, whatever. Sean Williams, Renzo Gracie black belt, known for the Williams guard. I don't know if
Yeah.
you know him. He's recently said on a podcast, he never lets, to your point, never lets someone just do something to him in jiu-jitsu. Even if he's playing with a white belt, right? He's not going to let him pass their guard. He's going to do the right
Yeah.
movements.
Yeah.
And if they get around it, whatever, cool. But he's not just going to let you do something for that mindset you're speaking about, which is a great reminder for myself and people listening. Like, hey, like, stay on your game because this may transition or translate to a real life situation.
Yeah.
Which for me it has, for you it probably has outside of the gym.
Yeah.
You know, needing these skills.
Especially like if I'm going with like someone smaller and they're, they go to do a sweep that clearly they're not going to get on me because I weigh them by 100 pounds.
Mhm.
But if the technique's correct, I'll go over.
Good.
And
Yep.
then I'll figure out how to get out of it, and then
Yes.
we'll keep going. It's the same thing. I think you have to learn how to like spar with older people, how to spar with people your age, how to spar with women, how to spar with kids, right? I've seen plenty of people like beat up teenagers. I'm like, bro, that guy's 14.
Yeah, like, why are you doing
Like,
that?
why are you doing that? Because he doesn't know. He doesn't know how to train yet.
Right.
He just still thinks jiu-jitsu is smash everybody.
Right.
Which again, like jiu-jitsu is so great. It teaches you. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer for people, but when you don't really know what you know until the next new person comes in.
Yes.
Right? That's when people were kind of going back when people are like, how do you keep people engaged? They don't think they're getting better. I'm like, okay, well, here comes this guy. It's his third day, and he's actually going to roll today. Go ahead and spar with him. He's like, that guy didn't know anything. I'm like, yeah, because you know a lot. He doesn't know jack shit,
Yeah.
and you were on top of him. I'm like, and then they're like, oh, I like jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're finally winning, right? So, like, you don't know what you know
Uh-huh.
until a new person walks in, then you realize, man, I actually do know a lot.
How long did it take for you coming through the doors of jiu-jitsu to be like, okay, I kind of know something now?
Well, that's kind of, so in the Army, like, I knew what rear naked choke and arm bar
Okay.
were because of the Army.
Combatives,
Yeah,
right?
combatives, and my buddy did a lot of, like, no-gi stuff, and so he taught us some stuff. So, like, I already knew that kind
Gotcha,
of stuff,
okay.
so...
It was a little bit different of
It was a
progression.
little bit
Gotcha.
different. I
Okay.
knew, like, where I needed to be and what I needed to do, but I just didn't know the mechanics of it. I was just getting in a dogfight.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? So...
You had the toughness, and now
I'll
you can apply.
I'll say that. That you never had to teach that part for me, right? Like,
Yep.
I already kind of knew that. And that's another thing, right? When it comes to jiu-jitsu, some people, it's hard to teach them to be aggressive, to have fire, right? You can teach drilling and techniques, and drilling techniques are great, but what happens if I start to put my hand in your face and start putting my knee on your head? That's not jiu-jitsu.
Right.
That's just me being mean.
Yep.
Right? And so, like, I love to berimbolo and I love to do all those things, but what happens if I'm just like pant fighting and really coming after and putting my head in your face?
Right.
That's like intensity that you can't teach. Some
Right.
people have it, some people don't. I'll use my son example. My son's really good technically. He's been training for 7 years, but he doesn't have that fire in him. Like, I tell him and he gets upset with himself. I'm like, don't worry about it. I'm like, life's gonna teach you that later.
Right.
Life's gonna teach you.
And
how
then
to
that's
be-
also to say too, which is a great thing to have, but it's not to say you don't have to have that to walk through the doors of jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Right, because you can be taught that,
Yep.
right? You can get there,
Yep.
and I also believe the skills you'll learn of jiu-jitsu will apply to so many aspects of your life outside of the gym.
Yep.
So even if you don't have that fire and intensity, well, maybe it gives you a sense of calm where you don't necessarily, in situations maybe at work
Yeah.
or life where it would have been positive to have that, say, hey, you can be nice and calm now because of the practice of jiu-jitsu you've been doing.
for sure.
So you were familiar with jiu-jitsu before you walked through the doors, right?
Yeah.
You knew some of the basics. What is your game now? What is your go-to? What are you doing stylistically? Maybe
Yeah.
gi and no gi, because again, you're an active competitor. So
Yeah.
what is that like?
Dude, when I came in, it was just, and with the Carlson Gracie team, so it's like stay on top, be on top, stay on top forever, right? And so I was beating a lot of white belts and some of the blue belts when I first came in, just because I was just mean and I was staying on top. But then I went to my back and I'd get my guard pass like in 5 seconds, and then I was in trouble. So I became like a guard player, and people make fun of me all the time. A lot of the black belts on our team, like, Steve's gonna pull guard, blah blah blah. But like, I don't get my guard pass very often,
Right.
Especially in the gi. And no gi, it's a little harder, but I don't get my guard pass very often. That's something I'm like super proud of. So I'm a big De La Riva player, but this last month and a half, I've been wrestling a lot more. Like, I'm probably not gonna take you down, but I'm gonna make it really difficult for you to take me down.
I saw today, so your wrestling's getting way better.
Yeah,
it's looking good. You guys are doing good.
And then, like, I try, right? Like, I still, what I don't like about Nogi is that, like, my body took such a toll in the Army for 20 years that my neck is smashed. So, like, if people try to guillotine me, it's a 3-day recovery.
Right.
Nogi is a serious recovery for me. In the gi, I can slow everything down. I can push the pace that I want with the grips that I want.
Cool.
Right. So, but these days, I'm definitely a guard player. I like to play De La Riva. I like to teach single leg XX guard, stuff like that. But in the beginning, I was definitely top
and smash.
Top and smash all the time.
Oh, that's great. So, what is your favorite submission? And if you had to pick one,
this is the Kimura.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know that cop that was here today, Joel?
I don't know if I met him.
He says this, and it's the most accurate thing I've ever heard from me. But it's like, live by the Kimura, die by the Kimura. Like, sometimes it can turn around on you and you end up getting armbarred, but I used to just Kimura everyone from everywhere all the time when I was like a white belt, blue belt, purple belt. And then I stopped doing it, and then every now and then I'll like, it's still there. It's just there for me. It just screams at me.
Okay.
It screams at me to Kimura, to sweep, to submit from everywhere. It's just like Aaron Martin. Like, he loves to darce.
Yep.
If you give Aaron Martin a week of teaching, he's only teaching the darce.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. So would you say that's the Kimura submission is also what your training partners would say is your most go-to submission?
Ask John Taft.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know.
All the time.
Because I have a favorite submission I may like watching or like think is one of mine.
Yeah.
But then other people know it's like, no, you actually do this to us all the time.
Nice.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But no, I mean, it's a very the thing I've found with Kimura though is like with people similar size, and it has to be perfect technique.
Rob, I can't do it on him.
No.
Rob just
Can't.
explodes on it. You know? I will.
And Rob is 220 pounds, diesel, jacked, strong. I can't come around.
I will say, like, and then a lot of people are like just super submission. Like, if they don't submit you, they're like, man, I don't feel like I didn't win the round. I don't even really get a lot of submissions. If you watch a lot of my fights or my grappling matches, I don't really submit people, but I like drown you.
Right.
Like, my goal is to pass your guard, mount you, take your back, like, make you feel just helpless.
Yeah.
And then usually the submission comes. If it doesn't come, then it's okay. But for those 5-6 minutes, like, when they look at the clock and they're just like, oh my God. Like, that for me is just as good as submitting.
Right. It's very rewarding.
Yeah.
You took their soul for those 5 or 6 minutes.
Right? Like, I get the same energy as if I just catch you in a flat submission, right? Like, if you and I haven't rolled for, let's say a year, and you come in and you sub me in the first 10 seconds, well, let's see what the next 5 minutes are, because now I'm like, okay.
Right. Yeah, I actually agree with that sentiment, because it's like, hey, like, something could have just happened, whatever.
Yeah.
But if you smash me and drown me for 5 minutes, I'm not going to feel good even if I had subbed you. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Then it's like, okay, well, now we got that out of the way. That happens a lot, right? Like, especially with like feet, some boom, 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 ankle lock, heel hook. You're like, oh God. Okay, well, let me not put my legs anywhere near you. Let's see what happens.
Yep.
So
cool. So maybe as a coach or jiu-jitsu practitioner being on the mats yourself, what was the last Eureka moment you had, right? Maybe a discovery where the move has been there, right? Since the beginning of time, right? People have done it, but maybe no one has shown you this, and that you said, wow, I think I just discovered something, Or as on maybe the coaching side of it, where you're like, oh, maybe this style of coaching or leadership works better for this type of person.
Yeah. I play a lot of closed guard, which is like old school, kind of. A lot of people don't close the guard anymore.
Right.
And I think just honestly, just some small things of like, I'm watching people and they're letting them posture, and they're not like grip fighting, and they're not breaking grips. So that for me, teaching people that you have to break grips. If this person gets this grip, you have to adjust that grip. If you don't, you're just in this battle of trying to run away.
Yeah.
So it's been addressing grips maybe over the last couple of months, or maybe last year. If someone grabs my gi, like, I make sure I break that grip. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I'll just power through it.
Yeah.
Right. And so I watch the white belts and they're just pulling their head and they're trying to run away, and this one person's got them by the grip. So grip breaking, for me, has been that, like, okay, we're definitely not breaking posture, and we haven't been grip breaking enough. And that's been a game changer, right? Like, he who has the better grip is going to win.
Yes.
That's why when you're watching black belt matches and someone do just something minor where they have the outside of the pants, and people are like, oh, because they're about to pass.
Right.
And if you know the game, like, you understand, like, he has a better grip than that other person does.
Yep.
And if they don't address it, boom, guard test.
Yeah.
You know,
Cool.
so-
No, that's a great thing, because I think you, at your phase in jiu-jitsu, like a white belt, blue belt, purple belt, may not have that.
Yeah.
You know, but as you start getting later, it's like, oh wow, I now know what I don't know.
Yeah.
So that's a cool thing to recognize that, and because it is so simple. Hey, posture and grips.
Yep.
And that's something I'm horrible at. So I need to get better at myself.
Well, I was doing the same thing. I was like, man, why am I letting him be that tall? You know, Ronaldo came in and he just said something simple as being on your toes. He was in the guard. And he's tall anyway, but he was in my guard, but he was on his toes, and he was like 6 feet tall in my guard. And I was like, I can't even reach.
Wow.
You know, and he's like, yeah, just by being on your toes, you add that little piece, and now you really can't grab my collar.
Yeah.
My toes are so
I'm having
smashed.
a moment where like, oh, well, that makes so much sense.
Yeah, when you're on your knees, but like you're actually on your toes,
Uh-huh.
and then you just stand straight up. And I was like, my toes are smashed. I don't know if I can do that, but that couldn't break his posture.
Yeah.
Just of something simple like that.
I like that. Best advice in jiu-jitsu someone has given you?
I'd have to really think about that one, but I'm gonna use Ronaldo again.
Yeah.
Because I got to spar with him, and he stayed at my house, and he was like, I'm gonna be honest. He's like, you did great. He's like, but you were trying to be as fast as me, as flashy as me. Like I was trying to mimic his style.
Yeah.
To like keep up with him.
Right.
And he's like, I'm 23 years old. He's like, I train every day. I train every day at a world caliber gym. He's like, it's gonna be hard. He's like, so you need to develop your own style, perfect it, and then apply it.
Cool.
Right? So like before, I was just like, I need to know Del Hiva, I need to know single leg X, I need to know X guard, I need to know close guard. And so I feel like I actually know all of the positions, but I'm not a master of any of them, but I'm really good at Del Hiva. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So like, I want to be really good at all of the positions. I don't want to be a black belt and someone go like, show me deep half, and I'm like, oh, well, I don't know how to do that.
Right.
And I'm kind of there for that actually. Like that's something I need to like figure out.
Yeah.
Same thing for like leg locks. Or like I understand heel hooks, but I can't tell you why the braking mechanic of it.
Right.
Right. Like sometimes when I watch like videos, I'm like, here's the braking mechanic. So I'm like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Yeah.
I know where to put my legs and what to do, but I don't know and it's the same thing with the arm bar, right? It's the same braking mechanic, but I know those pieces. And so what I took from that was like I needed to really hone in on my style game, get that good going, and then apply it. Not try to know everything or try to mimic everything. Obviously, Hodge Gracie didn't say this to me, but he says it himself. He's like, find 10 moves, be the master of 10 moves, and then that's it. He's like, don't try to be a master of 100.
Right.
Master 10 moves.
That's great.
And so Ronaldo kind of was the same way.
And I like that because too, jiu-jitsu is never ending for that reason, because there's always something out there to learn. You say, hey, you don't want to be that black belt that doesn't know, which is going to continue to make you strive to be a better jiu-jitsu practitioner, a better coach. So that's awesome, man.
Carlson Grayson Jr. said that when he was here. He's like, he's like, in my time, we didn't do worm guard. You know, he's like, but I gotta learn it to teach it to my students. Maybe they like it.
Right.
And so that's another thing that's great about coaching, is that like, I'll get questions all the time, especially some of these blue belts. And he was like, hey, what do you like to do when, they put you in squid guard? I was like, I've never been put in squid guard. I'm like, show me squid guard. So I'll have him show it to me, because he's like,
been on YouTube for 3
He's been on Instagram for the last 17 hours straight. I'm like, show me. He puts me in squid guard. I'm like, oh, I think I would do this.
Yeah.
And it works out.
Cool.
Right? So like, that's because you kind of understand it. But he's like, what would you do in worm guard or squid guard or this guard or Z guard? I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Right.
Just show me. I'm like, oh, cool. This is what I would do.
Cool. I like that. Yeah, there's so much information out there right now, which is awesome.
But it's better than someone going, well, this is what you're supposed to do, and you make up some shit. Right? Sometimes when people ask me questions, I'm like, show me. I was like, I'm a visual learner. Show me what you're talking about. And then I can go, okay, well, this is where you're messing up.
Yeah.
This is why that didn't work.
That's great. Yeah. I like that. I know you said, hey, you're almost addicted, obsessed with jiu-jitsu. You're here all the time. But is there anything outside of jiu-jitsu that you do that's good for the soul?
Dude, right now, like, all I do is jiu-jitsu. I hate to say I'm corny like that.
No.
I do nothing but, like, I watch jiu-jitsu. I'm on flow grappling. I'm on Instagram. I'm, like, saving stuff. I'll look at stuff that if I think it applies to my game, I'll come in here. I'll drill it with the blue belts. If I don't get it in the first 3 moves, I delete it, and then I move on. Like, that's all I do. I don't do anything else. I mean, what's good for my soul is obviously being with my kids and my family.
Yeah.
But like hobbies, I just don't have any other ones.
Cool. No,
But,
that's great.
I love being my kids. I mean, this got a lot of super personal, but like I have my son 3 days out of the week where I don't do like daily jiu-jitsu. So being able to raise him has been good. My oldest, I was in the army for so long that I didn't get to enjoy those things. So being with my kids is good for my soul. But if you're talking about like hobbies, I don't do anything else, dude.
What about anything for recovery? Right, training jiu-jitsu so much.
Yeah, dude, I've been doing a lot of recovery recently. Like,
Okay.
I've been like,
what's your go-to? Talk to me about it.
sleep. This is so ridiculous because I used to I'd be like, whatever, I'm fine. I'm just my whole life I never stretch, first of all, right? Like I'll hang from the bar and I'll be like, all right,
good to go.
Right? And so like, and I'm still really bad about stretching, but I've been doing this Whoop. You know Whoop? Have you ever done Whoop?
Is that
It's a band.
The Whoop strap to where it monitors?
Yeah.
Okay, I've heard of it. Yeah.
So I'll do that, and it's shitty because it like monitors like how crappy your sleep was, how many calories you got, are you recovered the next morning, like all sorts of stuff. So like if you got 5 hours of sleep, it's gonna tell you recovered like shit. If you drank 2 beers, your recovery is like red.
Wow.
Red, and it's kind of scary because it's like, man, I haven't slept this whole week. I said I had 3 hours of sleep. I'm averaging 3 hours of sleep.
Wow.
And so the big one is sleep. I mean, I'm also 38, so my girlfriend and I are in bed sometimes at 9 p.m. But I'm excited because then I can get to sleep and wake up refreshed the next day.
Yeah, that's huge.
So the sleep is big. The Whoop is pretty big for me. But one of the things that I do pretty constant is like I do a lot of sauna and hot tub.
Okay, cool.
I do the hot tub. I know you're friends with Greg Anderson.
Yeah.
But I'll do the hot tub for like 15 minutes, and then my body's already warmed up, and then I'll go in the sauna for 15 minutes, and then it really like pours out.
Yeah.
I kind of want to do ice baths, but I'm kind of I don't know.
It's not my favorite thing, but
Dude,
it's
I was
okay.
like gonna buy that barrel that he has. That barrel is like $1,500.
Bro, go to Tractor Supply right here and get the silver ones. Just the open silver ones, and you're good.
Yeah, I was
Put
like,
a tarp over it.
I can be influenced pretty easy on these things. So I looked and I was like, well, Greg Anderson has it. I'm getting a barrel too. Fucking barrel's like $1,500.
Yeah.
Like, well, no, that's not happening.
Yeah, one of my buddies, I think you know him, Sean. He does that as well. He goes sauna, hot tub, or in reverse as well. And I did that once. It was so different for me because in the sauna you can sweat out the heat in a sense, right? But then when you're in the hot tub, you're not letting that heat out. So to me, it felt 10 times hotter than the sauna. It was a very strange experience.
3 times a week I was doing it.
Yeah.
Kind of slowed down a little bit just because I go to LA Fitness to the store, but it's been broken. So 3 days a week. That was kind of like my meditation, if you will, like my me time.
Cool.
Right? And I get in there in the hot tub, 15 minutes in the sauna, and then start the day.
That's huge.
After jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, that's huge, man. Sleep. Even it's funny because even the days I train hard, which sometimes it helps me get to sleep right away.
Yeah.
But then it's like, I can't. I'm not taking my sleep as seriously as I should. So it's a great reminder.
Yeah.
Well, man, I appreciate you letting me sit down with you and chat with you here and take some film at your gym. Again, it's every time I've come down here since you've opened it up, it's this other side. It's a beautiful mat space. Anyone who gets to train here under you and Caleb is lucky, right? You guys are great people. This is awesome. So thank you for the rounds and let me sit down with you and chat. If someone wants to come through the door for the first time, what is their process to train here? Do they just walk through, sign up? I mean, how do you talk someone through that? Phone call, email, what's the best option?
I answer all phone calls. I answer all emails. I try to get back to you I'm always on my phone, so like the return time is 10 minutes. If you call, I'm calling you right back. If you email, I'm emailing you right back. But the best way is just walk in the door, you sign a waiver, get 3 free days. I pretend that after 3 free days, you know what you're doing, and we start sparring. Let's go.
Cool, man. Well, I appreciate it. Again, guys, we're down here in Is this Parkway or Spanaway, Washington. Logic Jiu Jitsu. Again, I'll get that info from you. Put it in the show notes so anyone can just click a link to your Instagram, the website, all that stuff, and you can see where this place is at and how to get here easily so you guys can come train. Again, remember my goal is to share with you guys what's good for the soul. I love Jiu Jitsu. Steven obviously does as well. We believe it's good for the soul, and I want to get 1,000 people to try Jiu Jitsu because of sharing our experience with the gym owners that I talk to. So, man, I appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much, man.
Thanks so much. Thanks.